Greetings, humans. I bring along somebody that you should meet. I want you to meet my third cousin, twice removed from Japan, from a previous relationship and a prior commitment. Konnichiwa. Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and as promised, this month we're going to show off some imports that are featured in my collection. And to kick this off, I'm going to show off to you one of them that I believe is one of the prizes of my collection. Because as you saw from the title, this is not a Transformer. This is one of the precursors to the Transformers from Takara's Microchange line. So this here is the Microchange Robo P38. One of the toys that would be used later in the creation of Megatron. But not exactly this toy. Megatron was created from the variant of this toy that was the Microchange P38 Uncle, to be the gun that was featured heavily in the TV series The Man from U.N.C.L.E. So while being of a similar gun, the toys are not entirely alike, due to the fact that the Uncle version, which would become Megatron, had some extra plastic up here on the right arm that was used to hold the scope. As you'll see here when we bring Megatron back into the fold here, slide his scope off, and you can see here this extra bit of plastic is added on to the Uncle version. We bring this one up close, and you can see it is not entirely present. It's possible that they were intending maybe for it, but it's not thick enough really to hold the scope. But we'll show that off a little later. Now, if any of you notice that he's not standing exactly correct, that's due to the fact that this toy is relatively on the new side, and the feet on him are very, very stiff and a major pain to get out. So I'm not going to mess with him any further, but we'll just take a look at him all the same. Bring him up close so you can get a real good look at him. And immediately, a lot more of the differences between him and Megatron do become apparent. Now, I'm not exactly sure the year of release of this toy, but the paperwork indicates that he was put out in the toy catalog came with him says 1974, so I would imagine 73, 74 would be about the time frame when this toy was released. But then to go along with that, I have no idea when he was discontinued, but obviously it would be sometime before he would be brought back as Megatron for the Transformers toy line. But basically, no matter how you slice it, since I just turned 38 last Sunday, this dude is older than me. Take that as you may. Now, since he is exactly the same mold as Megatron, he has the same type of articulation. The arms do move at the shoulder, so we can pivot the arms to the side about 90 degrees if you so choose, and they are capable of fully rotating all the way around. He has a joint at the ankle that allows his legs to move up about so far, and there is one in the knees, or at least they're supposed to be, but he's not moving there, so I'd guess he doesn't have that. So, there you have it for articulation. It's about on par with what you would find with Megatron. So, as you can see there, from the sides. He does have the same gun as the Megatron came with, but he also has this sword. Bring it down here so you can get a better look at it. We'll take a closer look at it later, but this should explain to many of you, if you've happened to pick up some of the later editions of Megatron and found that he came with a sword, whereas the original Generation 1 toy did not. Well, this is why. This original toy from the 70s, an early version of Megatron, did come with the sword. For whatever reason, Hasbro decided not to release the sword with him, possibly due to the fact that since they marketed Megatron using the scope of the gun as his main weapon, they omitted the sword, but they also, for whatever reason, included the high-density laser cannon, as they called it here, for Megatron, but the instructions do not show how to attach it to him. Very strange, isn't it? Okay, moving right along, let's transform the Microchange P-38, and we start by first removing his weaponry. This may take a second. Okay, maybe not that many. Alright, he transforms exactly as how you would transform Megatron. First thing we're going to do is we push the fists and the forearms back into each other here. Got to do this gently because he is a very old toy. And I really don't want to ruin him, because I did pay a fair amount of money for him, folks. There we go. Then we'll take the headpiece and pop it free, swing it back. The arms will rotate down and around, like so, just like how you did for Megatron. And fold them in and snap them together. As soon as you get them lined up just exactly right. Since this dude has very little play wear, he's not as easy to manipulate. Then here at the front, we'll rotate the gun barrel and swing it to the side. Rotate the gun section so it points forward. And press it down so it fits secure. And then connect the arms into the body of the gun. Fold the head up underneath. It's supposed to snap into place as best as possible. Fold in the one foot we were able to get out. And fold the legs towards the back. Connect the legs together and very gently and stiffly snap it into place. And there you have it. A Walther P-38 handgun, which goes hand in hand with some of the Japanese stuff, as the animated character Lupin III also carries a Walther P-38. As you can also see that it does resemble a real gun considerably better than how Megatron did. Give me a second here as I transform Megatron off camera for you folks. He's cooperating a lot better than what his cousin over there did. Doo-doo-dee-doo. Ching. Almost there. Alright, you see, here's Megatron. rotate him around. You can get a good look at both of them, folks. Now, as you're probably wondering, it should be somewhat self-explanatory, especially after my mentionings of it during the Megatron video, and most especially during my Shockwave video, at the regulations for toy guns in America in the 1980s, when Megatron was released as a Transformer. The changeover, while it's not the best, it does still bear some resemblance to a real gun, but it's not quite as obvious. I mean, let's face it here, you've got gray plastic on the barrel, but you got it chromed here on the rest of the gun. A black grip, but from some angles you could see it would still somewhat resemble a real gun. Whereas definitely the Japanese one also resembles a real gun. But it's definitely more convincing with the solid black and the brown. It's definitely more convincing of being a real weapon. Now, some of you might be asking why they made guns like this that look so much like a real one. In Japan, the gun laws are very, very strict. I mean, we think that we often wonder about how strict of gun laws we can make, especially given the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. But in Japan, it's very difficult to obtain a real gun. And there is a market over there for airsoft guns, which both of these toys could do. Megatron really can't due to how the toy laws were changed for release here in America. But his Japanese counterpart there does double as an airsoft gun. And in a lot of cases, the comic artists in Japan, when drawing their manga or comics, they often will obtain the airsoft versions of real guns so that their characters are more credible at wielding specific firearms. As I stated before, the character Lupin III uses a Walther P-38. Now, whether or not his artist obtained one of these, I can't really say. But seeing as Lupin came out a few years before this toy was made, I would say it certainly wasn't this toy. But it is a little bit of interesting trivia for all of you. And here in a moment, I'll get some of my airsofts and kind of show you a little bit of the difference on them. Put you on hold for a second, folks. Okay, now back for show and tell. Now, since that one there, the P-38, since he was made to transform into a toy robot, there's obviously all the different markings and grooves and slots and whatever that are intended for him to transform. Now, I've got one here that is from Japan. This is meant to resemble a CZ-75 handgun. I got it for being a fan of Gunsmith Cats. The character Raleigh Vincent uses this gun. This is an airsoft pistol. And immediately, the thing you'll notice is that there is no red tip on this. So, given a lot of the recent shootings that have happened with people holding airsoft guns, this is a dangerous thing to have. So you can imagine how little this thing goes outside of my home. Whereas then we have this one. This is made to resemble a Beretta M92 handgun. This is meant to be one of the guns from the Biohazard or Resident Evil video games. Since, see right there, stars, RPD, and of course it's got the stars, the raccoon police mentioning here on the grip. As you can see, it does have a very bright orange tip on the end of it. So that tells people it's a fake. But as you can tell, I could easily paint that black. And who would be able to tell if it was real or fake? So obviously, this bad boy here in the back is just as dangerous in the wrong hands as these two. So I would definitely advise for any of you that are looking into getting this toy, you make sure you get it and do not use it for anything other than what it is intended to do. So I do not want to see or hear that people got hurt or killed because they were waving around a toy gun like this. So please, please, I implore all of you out there, do not use this toy for anything other than to collect as a vintage Transformer. If you like to shoot airsoft, go ahead, use it if you really must. I wouldn't, but that's also your call. But remember, if you use it in any way beyond that, it is your responsibility. And if you inadvertently get killed, it was on you. Alright, now that we've had our moment of shop safety, let's move on to the more interesting parts of this toy. Getting on with the accessories. The first one we'll show off is the same one that Megatron comes with. What's labeled in the American instructions as his high-density infrared laser cannon. It's exactly the same one that Megatron came with. Exactly. There is no changes to it whatsoever. And for a toy that's 40 plus years old, this is in very good shape. Then next, of course, is his sword. I'll hold it here at an angle so you can get a look at it all in one shot. Like I said earlier, if you've been buying some of the special edition Generation 1 tribute toys and have wondered why some of the Megatrons came with a sword, this is why. Here's the back side of the sword. The only thing really different is the side post down here that my left thumb is pointing at. So that's how it fits into his hands. As I stated earlier, this is an actual working airsoft gun, and it comes with a handful of bullets here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You get 20 rounds of ammunition because he comes with 2 of these, and as you can see, they are all there. They are all present. This has never been fired with these bullets. And I do not intend to use them. As you can imagine, 40 plus years of age, and he has not been used at all. So, very, very impressive. Basically how that worked is, you can see, if I can get him in the right light here, this hole in the top of him would be where you would load a single bullet in, and then click, just like that. I mean, the hole was carried over on Megatron, as you can see, but these pieces in here are disabled. They're linked to the trigger, so you pull the trigger, nothing happens. Except for maybe just some clicks, whereas with this one, the firing mechanism in here does work. You can hear that. So that one would really fire. But of course, if you're going to give somebody an airsoft, you got to have a target. So we got some little cardboard targets here. They gave us 3 of them. You would just simply detach it here at the perforation, fold it right here just beneath the feet, and you would have some targets to shoot at. And they give you 3 targets. Rather wicked looking targets there, if you ask me, but I guess that's in the eye of the beholder. But those would be all of the accessories. As you can imagine, finding all the bullets is pretty difficult on this toy. But you can probably also guess finding the targets is pretty impossible since they're made out of cardboard. One last little bonus to show you, due to the fact that I've got it this way, is I've got an unused sticker sheet. So how about that, folks? You get to get a rare glimpse at an unused sticker sheet in these videos. I keep hoping that I'll find some more, but as you can imagine, that's not an easy task to find after 30 years, let alone finding this one, having it after 40 years. So, another bit of history for you. Okay, getting back onto things. As you might have suspected with him, I got him completely intact with the styrofoam packaging. So it's not much to look at, but to go along even better with that, I do have the box. Let's get him out of the way here. So you can take a look at the box. The original Toys box. When this was sold all these years ago, he retailed for about 2,200 yen. We'll let the economists figure out how that translates to dollars, because I'm not about to. Interestingly, here on the top of the box, has some stuff here in English. Data on the Gun Robo Walther P38. MC Action Command Robot, so I guess that means Micro Change Action Command Robot. Contains military computer, Microman 38. Automatic laser, that would probably be his gun. And Dimension Blade, that would be his sword. And down here on the bottom, we just have the toy's name, the picture of the gun, another picture of him. And over here on the side, Micro Change Series, P38, and serial number for the toy. Same thing on the other side of the box. And here on the back, Gun Robo Walther P38. Some other various vital statistics and data. I can't read Japanese to save my life, so I will not even attempt it, folks. And unfortunately, most of my Japanese friends like to read it to me in Japanese and then look at me funny and, oh, you wanted it in English. You see why I don't ask for help too much. Over here we have the Takara logo and probably some more stuff on the Micro Change series of toys. Kind of like to imagine that some of the imagery that's used here would have been from advertising commercials from the 1970s. Those might have been something interesting to see, especially with how famous many of the other toys in the line have become, thanks to the Transformers. Now, I do happen to have the instruction manual. And as you can see, it is in Japanese, so we will not try to read it to you, folks. If you can read it, all the power to you, folks. We'll open it up in here so you can get a glimpse at things. You can see predominantly stuff that's in it shows how to transform him from the gun to the robot. And then, of course, you've got an inset up here that shows how to place the stickers on his legs, and of course how to attach the gun and the sword into his hands. So that's definitely an improvement over Hasbro, since they didn't even show us this part. If there's anybody out there from Hasbro watching, don't do that again. And then over here we've got contents, the dimension blade and the laser gun, the bullets and the targets. And then down here you are seeing how to load the gun and how to assemble the targets. Obviously, this would have been marketed towards older children, ones that would be more responsible. I don't see this getting sold to very young children, but, well, one never knows. Now here on the back, we got some interesting things to show off. We'll take closer looks at these in a moment, because I do have the toy catalog. As you can see, they had some various other toys in here, some other transforming cassettes. One becomes a motorcycle right here, and right there's a helicopter. They have little Microman figures that ride in them, so it's kind of different. We have another gun. Right here we got Laserbeak, Ravage, and Frenzy. Notice I said Frenzy because he's in the blue. We've been over this before, folks. Right here we got a watch, about 3 different robot head figures, and we have an early version of Reflector. This lists all the different guys that are being shown up here and gives their retail price. Of course, over here you have an assortment of the Autobot mini cars, or what would become mini cars. So we got like Cliff Jumper, Bumble Jumper, Bumblebee. Looks like Brawn. It's hard to tell if it's Brawn or Outback. The color's not the best. Gears, Wind Charger, and Huffer. And then down here we have a version of Soundwave, another gun, and of course the P-38 Uncle that became Megatron. So, some more interesting history for the Transformers in there. But for a better look at it, I do have the Japanese toy catalog, and as you can see here, this gives you what I'm using to base the age of the toy on. Takara 1974. So this thing would have been 5 years old when I was born. Yes, I'm a dated fossil to any of you young people watching. We'll open it up here. We'll take a look at some of the stuff inside here. I have no idea what some of this was intended to be. But it's still interesting to look at the history of what came with the Transformer toys at the time, before they got their international fame. Because Microchange was one of the lines, and Micromen, they were part of the lines that did become the Transformers. And right here, you see we get a look. Some of the car robos, Wind Charger, Huffer, Gears, and Brawn. We got Cliff Jumper here with that, and there's Bumblebee, and a red version of Bumble Jumper, whereas you saw in the instructions he was blue, so that should tell you why there were so many different color ones out there. It was cheap to do. And right here we got Watch Robo. So you could have a little transforming watch face. And he apparently came in 3 different colors. Not really so sure about the blue. The gray one looks pretty good. But me, I'm a little partial to the black one. Turn the page here. We got Reflector. Early release of Reflector. I do promise you fans, Reflector is on the schedule this year. And right here, this is a version of Soundwave, but this don't look like Soundwave. So I don't know if this is a prototype of what would eventually become Soundwave, or if they actually released this one before the one that became Soundwave. I kind of doubt it. I think this is just a prototype. Well, like we said, the original Soundwave toy did come with headphones. So that's pretty neat. And then right here we've got the MC-12, which is what I just showed you, the gun Robo P38. And then, of course, on the rest of the spread, we have what would have become Megatron, the Uncle version. And then we turn the page. Here's one of the other guns, Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum. Obviously the gun made famous by Clint Eastwood in his Dirty Harry series of movies. And then we got this one, the smaller one that was seen on the instructions. Closest hint that I have on here is these words down here at the bottom. M1910. So I'm guessing it was probably a Beretta M1910. I'm no gun expert, folks. If you can properly identify it, please do so down in the comments below. I will thank you in advance if I did get it wrong. On the page here, here's those cassette vehicles that we could barely see on the other side. I can see why they weren't included with the Transformers due to the fact they were made for these little guys instead of acting as independent robots, but I don't know, maybe those would have been kind of cool to have. They certainly would have been different. That much I'll give them credit for. And then, of course, over here we got Frenzy and Ravage and Laserbeak. Now, the Japanese versions, these guys were all sold separately, and they came with a clear plastic cassette case. Something they didn't give us here in America. And then lastly, here on these last page, we get some of the history of the Microman and their story. So as far as I know of, it's never been, if it was animated, it was never released here. So I can imagine if it was, it'd be something for us Transformer fans to have a look at. All in all, rather interesting. Nice little time capsule into the history of the Transformers. Now let's bring our friend back out here. For my final thoughts. Okay, you're not going to hold your gun. Fine, don't hold it. See if I care. Alright, final thoughts. What do I think of the Microchange Gun Robo P38? As a relic of history for the Transformers, I like it. It's a piece of their history to look back on and appreciate. Especially since very few toy lines that have been converted from a previously established toy line gain the success and notoriety that the Transformers have gained in the 30-plus years that they have been around. As a toy itself, I'm a little leery of it, folks, and I'm going to be honest with you about it. Especially with a lot of the recent shootings that have gone on with people being involved with holding realistic toy guns and have wound up getting killed. Or in other cases, I've also known of friends of mine that have been involved in excursions and experiences and whatever, where they've had to deal with people that mistakenly identify the guns as such. Because I do have a friend who has a real Walther P38, and she used it to defend a bunch of young women. Idiot that was trying to assault them thought that her gun was Megatron. He was half right. Yes, it was, but Megatron can't be cocked. So that naturally scared them off real fast when they realized this one would shoot real bullets, not pretend stuff. It's interesting to look at the history that has come from this toy since. It's also interesting to see the different culture that he came from, as he came from Japan, where the rules and the laws for things are handled considerably differently than what they are here in the United States. And I look at that as a learning experience to help understand their people a bit more by seeing what they do, how they do things. Whether or not you agree with how it is done is irrelevant. It's using that knowledge to better understand and to become better people is what helps us grow as a society and as people. But in the long term of things, I would put this toy probably in the middle tier. If I was able to find more information to define the character more, it would be easier to come up with a better place to actually put it. It's not a bad toy. I mean, granted, yes, it's an airsoft pistol that doubles as a transformer. Well, when you consider the fact that the transformer he eventually becomes is Megatron, that kind of helps bolster some of his credibility. To a degree. Not the best, granted, especially with the trouble I've had with him, but I blame that more to being a stored toy rather than being one that has been played with. But all in all, I think he deserves a middle tier standing. And as I stated earlier, folks, don't get this toy if you're not going to enjoy and appreciate it for what it is. If you want to use it as a cheap thing to go commit crimes or get yourself hurt, go do that with something you can get a lot cheaper, because that's about all your life is worth if that's all you feel like doing with it. If you're a true aficionado of the Transformers and appreciate the history that they came from, I would suggest you definitely seek this out, but also keep it well out of the reach of any of your children or irresponsible friends. And that concludes my review of the Diaclone Microchange Gun Robo P38. The first of our import month toys. If you liked the video, please thumbs up it here on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button down below if you haven't already. Please feel free to post comments. I would appreciate any and all feedback that you would love to give for them. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later for another round in import month.